When you look at the parks, you look at the 4-H facility, all of those things are quality of life. It's touching industry sectors that not everybody's involved with. And what I mean by that is the 4-H it's a certain demographic. I mean, but it's a big industry. There's a lot of people that, they love the cattle, they love to show, they love to ride the horseback. So those types of facilities, I think, are vital for not just that particular industry, but for economic development. You expand a park and you add a rec center and you incorporate a BMX bike facility, you already have the location. We have a prime location off of I-10. We already have the hotels. We have easy accessibility. And then you're on the interstate, so you have some visibility. You partner all that together by creating this place where people can go and engage in those activities, and then they staying in your hotels and they eating at the Coffee Depot, and then they buying Boudin, and then they're going to Uncle T's, and then they're going to the Fizos and the Rochettos and the Cajuns, and my point is it's creating a sense of space that our people can enjoy in perpetuity.
You're listening to Fueled, a Fenstermaker podcast, and I'm your host, Catherine Fenstermaker.
Today on Fueled, I'm joined by Mayor Jan Scott Richard, a fourth-term mayor whose leadership has helped shape the rapid and intentional growth of Scott, Louisiana, one of the fastest-growing municipalities in the state. Known for his strategic foresight, calm resolve, and commitment to community identity, Mayor Richard has helped lead transformative efforts such as the Apollo Road Corridor, the city's award-winning drainage improvement plan, and the continued build-out of critical infrastructure aligned with the City of Scott's 2023 master plan. Under his leadership and guidance, Scott has taken a forward-thinking approach to infrastructure, leveraging funding tools, cultivating public-private partnerships, and investing in livability, not just growth. In today's conversation, we'll explore what it takes to shepherd complex projects from concept to concrete, and what it means to lead with quiet conviction in an era that demands clarity, collaboration, and character. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What a pleasure. So this interview is kind of divvied up. We called the season Concrete and Character. We're going to talk about some of the infrastructure elements of your leadership, and then dive into the heart of the man that you are, the leader that you are. So part one, concerning concrete, resilient growth, and infrastructure. Let's begin with Apollo Road, a project that has become a defining element of your leadership. What first catalyzed the vision for the corridor, and how has the second phase reshaped your thinking about connectivity, traffic management, drainage, and economic development?
Well, the concept, let's be honest, the concept originated years ago, probably decades ago, under the leadership of Hazel Myers. I think at that time, it just wasn't something that came to fruition, I'm sure. We were really a small town at that particular moment. I think there were some issues with some property owners, but the vision came under the previous administration under Mayor Morrison's leadership, beginning with phase one as I served on the council. And as I assumed this role as mayor, it was an opportunity that we had to finish the road. We had a dead-end corridor, beautiful dead-end corridor at the time. However, it was imperative that we connected it all the way to Dulles Drive. That way we can open up some access for economic development to also mitigate, drainage as well, being it was an untapped area of development. So it was kind of a no-brainer once I got in that we had to finish the road. We didn't get the funding at that time. We didn't have any support from the state leadership at that particular moment, but the council had the foresight to move forward and bond some money out so that we can finish it. And now that you've seen, we're approaching 2 years in December that the road and the corridor has been open, and the growth on it has been remarkable. And I think we're about to hit that mark where we're going to really transform our community in regards to economic development. The drainage impact obviously was huge in regards to what we were able to do with the Conspan Bridge and just opening up drainage channels, making sure we're mitigating not just the roadway, but other areas of concern. And then, of course, the traffic mitigation, being able to open a different corridor, alleviating some of the pressure from St. Mary Street and Westgate Street, and allowing people different avenues to get in and out of our community safely.
Talk to me, you mentioned this project originated in a previous administration. So I guess in essence, becoming the leader of a moving train.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that just as a concept, you're not starting from scratch. You have loose ends to tie up when you take office. How is that being a shepherd of previous
Well, I mean,
administration's projects?
you always end up following something. And so as the mayor, there's things that were started when I was on the council. There was things that were started before I was on the council. And it's just a matter of keeping the train moving and making sure that we're continuing to following through on what the people want and what the initiatives are that are going to create a better sense of quality of life within our community. This one, like I said, is involved many, many people, many administrations, many stakeholders, many property owners. And everyone had to have some buy-in. And so if you don't get that buy-in, you don't get the finished product. So, I mean, that concept, or like I said, originated probably 2 decades plus ago. And now it's come to fruition and it's actually concrete. So, and we're proud of it. But it's not just me. It's a team effort. And I've always been a guy that approaches it from a team perspective. And this was a team effort. And I was proud to see it finish under my administration.
Okay, and you mentioned that you were on the council before. So what's that? What's that about? Have you always had political aspirations, or is it something about making an impact? What drove you to public office?
I think, it's very simple. I think I've always led. I started my leadership role probably in 8th grade as a student council president. I served on some student council governments, both in high school and in college. Of course, I led soccer teams as captains of many teams in both high school and college. And I think I just always had a sense to lead. I wasn't afraid to put people, alongside me. I never lead from in front. I lead alongside. I think that's imperative that, you got to lead by example. And so, it wasn't something that I really thought at some point. If you'd have told me in 1992 when I graduated from Acadiana High that I would be the mayor of the town I grew up in, I would have probably said you've lost your mind. But the opportunity presented itself. I own a small business here in this community. I felt vested. My family was from here. I was born and raised here. I got ancestors that grew up here, and so it's a remarkable story. To come from a small town and to be able to lead it in this capacity really, really means a lot. It's a pretty humbling experience. So just honored to be here.
Well, you sure are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Your administration has managed a remarkably diverse set of infrastructure projects, from the wastewater treatment facility and LA 93 corridor to the A-Ross Landry extension and award-winning drainage improvement plan. These aren't small undertakings. So with so many priorities in motion, how do you determine what rises to the top? Is it public input, funding availability, a data-driven need, a combination of these factors?
All the above.
All of it.
But the most important thing, I think, is balance.
Okay.
I think when citizens are looking from the outside looking in, I think what they're looking for is a balance in government, and they want the main things taken care of. Of course, that's accessibility, infrastructure, quality of life amenities. And so my approach has always been to be as balanced as possible. Infrastructure being at the top, that includes drainage, that includes roads, that includes utilities, but also having the amenities that people are looking for, like parks and rec, accessibility through good corridors, making sure our roads are safe, and then of course public safety. That's always imperative. No one wants to migrate to a community that's not safe, and so even though I don't lead those respective departments, it's important that we have a good working relationship within those departments to ensure that what we're doing here in our community is providing a safe space for those to live, work, and play, and that ultimately is what quality of life is about here.
And when you say public safety, you're talking about police and fire.
Absolutely.
Kind of the underpinning.
Yeah, and I mean, even roadways, having good, safe roadways. I mean, a lot of our connectors, when you look at all the major roads, Westgate, the overlay of that started as when I was on the council. It finished in my first term as mayor. You got Rubon Secours. We did an overlay there in my under my administration. The Mill Street overlay, which was from north of I-10 over the Mills overpass. You look at the Apollo Road corridor. You look at the partnership with DOTD and Cameron Street that we were able to accomplish. You look at the section of Apollo Road between Cameron and Benoit Patin going towards the interstate. All of those are brand new roads. They're all brand new roads. And so the connectivity, the safeness of those roads allows us to grow economic development and to add residential capacity. And so I think that's imperative that we, public safety, of course, is police and fire, but it's also safe roads as well.
Scott's drainage improvement plan has become a model for proactive, data-driven resiliency planning and has earned accolades for its forward-thinking approach. What led you to prioritize that work, and how did you engage both citizens and technical teams to bring it to life?
Well, of course, our partnership with Fenstermaker was remarkable. What happened in 2016 when I was on the council was shocking. I'm a pretty big guy in regards to height, and then when I'm walking down streets within our community, blocks from where I was living at the time, where water is waist deep, it was a concern. Trying to get people in and out of their homes and trying to mitigate any future flooding during that event was pretty eye-opening. And so when I took the stab at running for mayor, and I had the success of winning the election in 2018, it was imperative. I think it was the first and only thing that I was focused on was to get some type of plan and to partner with the experts like Fenstermaker to ensure that what we're doing is a blueprint, and is some type of blueprint that not only my administration can follow, but any future administration can follow in regards to making sure that we are tackling with a head-on approach anything to mitigate future flooding and those 2016 events from happening again. And so it was almost a no-brainer. And anytime you can put together a plan and you get the input from the public and you get the input from the experts like Fenstermaker, you can put something really, really cool in place that the future of this community will always be able to lean on. And so that's kind of part of a legacy. When you come in and you can do something that no matter who's in office will be able to utilize it, to me, that's pretty cool. And so this was a great partnership. Like I said, Fenstermaker, the public input, our administration, the council, everybody was really vested into trying to put something together that could mitigate any future flooding within our community. And it's a work in progress. It's never ending. It's always something that we can build on, but I'm proud of it. And it's something that we should hold on tight to.
So you were on the council in 2016 when the Great Flood event happened. Do you feel like that was catalytic in any way, as like a nudge to say, I really want to take the reins?
That was one of the driving forces of me running was I didn't want that to happen again. And it was an unfortunate. We've seen some pretty crazy weather events even as of late. It's coming down very rapidly and it's coming down very fast. And some systems aren't built to handle that. Many systems aren't built to handle that, but it's doing as much as we possibly can to mitigate that. My approach has always been comprehensive, but some of the work we did in the plan that had never been done in probably 40, 50 years. I mean, the cleaning of Cooley-Oticon from Old Spanish Trail to the interstate, that hadn't been cleaned in 40 years. The cleaning of Cooley-Mean, the cleaning of lateral LHC all the way to the edge of our city limits off of Ridge Road. Those are things that were pretty common sense. In my opinion, it's just regrading the channel back to its original state to allow better water conveyance. And I think, that's been my approach. The biggest thing I think that I would hang my hat on in regards to drainage was the public-private partnership with the Provo Pond. And so that will always be, that was an award-winning project, and that's a big driver in the plan that I think has kind of set us over the edge. I think it was the first public-private partnership in Lafayette Parish. I'm proud to say that. We've seen other municipalities like Youngsville jump on board with that same partnership, and it's proven to be beneficial. And that one for sure has proven to be very beneficial in that area that flooded severely in 2016.
Do you want to talk about Provo Pond?
I do. I'd love to. So what happened was when we had already started the process. The city had owned the property. We started to do some work in removing some of the wooded area that it was, that it encapsulated, and but we didn't finish, and we didn't really have a plan. And so as soon as I took office, I knew Robert Daigle and his team were looking at expanding their West Village footprint, and so I approached them. I said, "Listen, don't know if it's possible, but there is an opportunity here. I do know the property owners very well, and I feel like this could be an opportunity for you to sell some prime parcels on this pond if you were able to work out an agreement with the property owner to purchase the property." I said, "We would allow you to mitigate the pond, and you would be able to sell lots on that, and we can work out some type of payment plan." And so that's ultimately what we did. I got him in front of the property owner. They were able to strike a deal for him to buy the property. And then he did the excavation work because it was quicker. As a private entity, as they were able to go ahead and move forward quickly with getting the pond dug, excavated. They were able to put in the amenities. And so we were able to pay our share of that excavation and that mitigation in a knockdown payment. So we worked out like a 3-year payment plan with Robert and his team. They were able to dig the pond within 3 months. Once they signed the agreement with us and they got a contractor that was on board, that was in July, I think, of 20. And by October, we had a pond. And we had already begun that the mitigation was already in place. So the amenities came after that. Of course, you had the fishing piers, and then you had the walking trail, the aesthetics. They've just recently added a playground. So that's a quality of life component that we've added in our community that we never had. So it's a safe place for people to go and walk. People can go and fish. The kids can enjoy the amenities of the playground. But the number one goal was achieved, which was mitigating flooding in an area of repetitive loss. So, it's a win-win when you look at it from a project perspective. It captured everything that we were looking for: drainage, number one; public space, number two; and amenities for eternity and perpetuity. So those are all very important when you're looking at a project. It's similar to Apollo. You want something that people can appreciate and enjoy for a very long time. And so super, super excited about that. We were actually able to present that particular partnership at the Association of State Floodplain Managers Conference in Orlando back in 2021. Jean and I were able to go and present the public-private partnership and how that came about. So pretty cool project.
Sounds to me like you had an eye for resolving an issue and a good connection and a good execution on the people side.
Absolutely. I mean, because like I said, we've mitigated flooding in that particular area. And I think in these recent rain events, we've seen the benefit of that pond and what it's done. You're talking about a 10-acre piece with a 7-acre pond, walking trails, the fishing piers, all that good stuff. But my point is a lot of that water that was being held on those streets in that area that was up to my waist back in 2016 is now getting into that pond. We have a weir structure that was designed by Fenstermaker to ensure that the water stays there and slowly releases out in heavy rain events. So all of those things partnered up have created a sense of space for us that not just mitigates flooding, but also allows for quality of life when it's not raining.
So people talk about beginning with the end in mind. Did you foresee all of these benefits, or did multiple benefits unfold as you embarked?
I think I saw the big picture from jump because my whole goal was like, man, how can we mitigate flooding in an area of repetitive loss, but create a first-class amenity that the city's never seen? And it's that and then some. And so I think there's a future dog park supposed to come there. I mean, the houses that are being constructed there are first class. I mean, we're talking probably the most expensive homes built within our community ever. And so it's just created a sense of space for people to go and then just enjoy nature, enjoy the pond, and spend quality time with those that they love. So it's a cool project. It's something I'll always be super proud of.
The city's 2023 master plan lays out a vision that balances infrastructure, identity, and investment. Which aspects of the plan feel most urgent to you today, and which feel most inspiring as you think about the long arc of Scott's future?
Well, I mean, that plan is the people's plan. I've always said that, and I think it was imperative that during that process. So we adopted the plan in 13. The initial comprehensive plan was done when I was on the council. And so we were at that 10-year mark. The city had really transformed in the last several years from 19 to 23. I felt like we really grew from a residential standpoint really, really rapidly, something we hadn't seen in a very long time. Obviously, the first phase of Apollo was open. We were starting to see some movement throughout the city in regards to economic development. But, so I think it was important that we adjusted the plan and updated it so that we got the current public input to see exactly what the drivers are. I think quality of life has always been the focus of any comprehensive plan, is to ensure that everything that we're doing, going back to that balanced approach, is creating a sense of place and a good quality of life for those that live, work, and play here. And so that's always been my focus of a plan. Even a drainage plan, obviously you partner with several people, but you want a plan that creates a good sense of place and that also, creates a good quality of life. And so the master plan update was important, and not just that, like land use. We want certain places or certain spaces in our community to house certain things. You want parks to be at the top of the forefront in certain places, industrial in certain places, economic development in certain places. And so I think our approach and my approach when looking at the plan and getting the public input was, where do y'all want to see things happen? How do you want to see Scott grow? Because we are growing exponentially. And so how do you see and how do you foresee the future of this community in certain spaces? And so that's ultimately what the goal was. But it was a balanced approach, and it was making sure that this was the public's plan. This wasn't Jan's plan. This wasn't the previous administration's plan. This was our plan. And so we need your input, and we want to make sure that the quality of life is always at the top of the bar. And as long as we continue to do that, I think the plan's going to work itself out.
So I'm thinking about kind of the evolution of political decision making, and thinking that today more often than not the public is included, whereas maybe things many moons ago were just decisions made behind closed doors. And maybe sometimes people can feel some nervousness about getting the public's input on things, thinking this might take longer or it might hang them up in some way. How do you see yourself as approaching involving the public? And I know we'll talk about this more a little bit later, but I'm just thinking about it now, since you seem to be so sure-footed in doing so. How do you gear yourself up to loop in the public on something? Is that just something that comes natural to you and you're not afraid of it?
I'm born and raised there. So I know the people. I'm not going to please them all. I understood that very early on in my career. I understand it more even now as the mayor. It was a little bit different when obviously I was more on the legislative side of things. But as the executive of this community, I think it's important that I get their input. The decisions we make aren't always going to be appealing to them, and they're not going to always be the ones that they may individually choose. However, we represent the whole, not the part. That's always been my focus. But if you don't include them, then they don't have a voice. And I think that's the one thing that separates me from many other elected officials, is that I'm fully transparent, a full disclosure. I'm not afraid to answer the tough questions. I prefer to do it publicly than anywhere else, although I am open to private meetings with anyone. However, I feel it's important that you always include them in any plan. So from jump, I promised the people that I would have drainage meetings every year, open to the public. I'm in my year 7, and I probably hosted 9 of those publicly to show them where we are, where we're going, and what's the plan for the future. Same thing in Scott Park. We're working on an expansion of Scott Park. We had a public meeting for that. Anything that we can do to engage the public, I think it's important. We did that with the drainage improvement plan. We've done that with the master transportation plan. And so it's imperative that, it gives them a voice and it gives them an opportunity, because if we're not doing that, then we're leading wrong. And I feel like their input, regardless of whether it comes to fruition, whether it's exactly what they want, that input is necessary in order for us to create a plan that's our plan. And so that's always been my focus. There's no I in team, and the more people vested that we have in a particular project, a particular plan, the better we are going to be in the long run.
Scott has deployed a range of tools like tax increment financing, TIFs, phased project development, and capital outlay coordination to support infrastructure investment. What's been key to making this complex financial structure work for the city?
Communication. When you talk about capital outlay, that's having a good rapport and a good communication lines with our Acadiana delegation, ensuring that they see the same priorities that you do as elected officials at the state level. The TIF is, I think, really important. That was passed, before I was even on the council. And I think that's important because of the simple fact that it allows us to take that money that is created through that tax and then reinvest it back in that particular area. So we've expanded that TIF over the course of the years. We expanded it all the way along the Apollo Road corridor, anticipating what the growth is going to be there. And we're going to be able to, it's going to allow us to take those funds from that TIF and apply it back into those areas to ensure that we're continuing to stay on top of the infrastructure and staying on top of the growth in that particular area. So, and then, of course, just balancing phasing, everybody would say, man, you bought the property at Scott Park, for instance. You bought the 37 acres. When's the rec center? When's the rest of the park coming? Well, we also have a sewer plant that we have to build. And we understand that we're at capacity, at a sewer capacity. And so in order for us to sustain currently what we have and to be able to grow, we're going to need a sewer plant. So it's being fiscally responsible and just trying to balance exactly what's going to be at the forefront. We want to prioritize everything, but certain things are going to require a phasing and a bonding. Certain things are going to require capital outlay. And certain things are going to require, those TIF districts where we can take those funds and reinvest back in those said areas that the TIF encapsulates. So it's really just a balanced approach. To say one is greater than the other, I wouldn't say that. It's just being fiscally sound and making sure that we're staying as balanced as possible and not putting our constituents in a bad place by over bonding or over committing to certain things. I think we spend as we need, we spend as we can, and we grow as smartly as we possibly can.
Have you always had a mind for numbers?
I'm really not a numbers guy, to be really honest with you, but I do understand that it's not my money, it's the people's money. And so we have to make sure that we're balanced, man. We got to be able to do a little bit of everything to ensure that our quality of life stays at a high level. And so that's always a challenge. That's probably the biggest challenge, is to ensure that, one, we're growing, that, we're doing what's necessary to get more growth, to build that sales tax base, but also to make sure that we're continuing to provide different parts of our community the necessary infrastructure, the accessibility, the parks and rec, all the things that they're looking for. We got to ensure that we're doing a little bit of everything to make sure that we're as balanced as possible while trying to maintain that small town feel. That's always the hardest thing. People always want to, hey man, we don't want to grow. We don't want no more residential. Well, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so, but we can still grow smartly. We can still maintain that small town charm. And I think we've done a great job of that. And that alludes to being balanced. And as long as we're balanced, I think we'll be in great shape.
Okay, talk to me about communicating the value of these tools, these financial tools that you use to residents, especially in a world where terms like funding and taxes can feel overwhelming or abstract to the general public.
Yeah, no one wants to hear the word tax. Let's be honest. We were fortunate. The council and this administration pushed that sewer tax. But I don't know how it would have been funded without that. And so we were very fortunate that the people saw, what the future plans were for the plant. This is a plant that we hope to, be able to sustain for the next 30 to 40 years. And this current plant is at 30 years old. So, we have to find a means to be able to offset some of the funding. We are restricted. We don't have a lot. We have our general fund. We have a 68 sales tax. We have an 84 sales tax. And then, of course, we have the TIF. And now we have this 23 sewer tax that is specific to sewer and there's a small piece that allows, if there's some excess, to be applied towards infrastructure, which I think was a great move by Councilman Montuse at that time, to add that little portion to the bill that was presented to the state. And so that fund, we're being fiscally responsible. We're trying to let the nest egg kind of build up, knowing that we're going to be taking on a pretty big price tag in regards to the plan, but we're hoping to not restrict ourselves. That's what I said, remaining balance is taking maybe some of this fund balance and dumping it towards whatever note we're going to have when we build this plant. And then also taking the remainder and saying, well, now we can bond out, but we're not going to restrict ourselves from a bonding capacity. So, every municipality has a pretty much a range of bonding capacity. And we still have a pretty good chunk of change left to do that, but we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. So if we put all our eggs in one basket in regards to the in regards to bonding capacity and say we're going to put it all into a sewer plant, but then guess what? Then the park goes on a back burner. Another major, maybe the Eras Landry extension, if we don't get any capital outlay support, has to go into a bond. So we just got to remain fiscally responsible. We got to take those funds from those taxes and make sure that we're divvying them up as best as possible to ensure that we're growing in the right way.
Okay, so in all of that mix, you talk about kind of dealing up at the legislative level, the state legislature and things like that. How are you balancing, because you got your hands in the public,
Yep.
and then you have your hands in your administration, and then you have to have your hands in this legislative game as well. How do you find yourself balancing all of those different relationships?
Well, I mean, it's part of the territory. But it's important that we're transparent with them. It's important that we have regular discussions and dialogue with all of them, and ensure that these projects are like the Apollo Road. We didn't get any capital outlay help on any of them. We got about right at $1 million on phase one. The remainder of the road, which was a $20 million plus project, we got no funding from the state. And that's politics. I mean, you have administrations that get in and things happen for a reason, but that's why those relationships are so important, because my approach, if I was ever a legislative person at the state level, my approach would always be what's best for the whole, not the part. And so sometimes you got to bend. Sometimes you don't have to compromise who you are. You don't have to compromise who you are as a person and where your morals or integrity lie. But you got to work across the aisle, and you got to be bipartisan. And so sometimes that doesn't happen. But you take what you get, and you just got to move forward. But you can't allow those decisions made outside of your jurisdiction to change the focus of what you see in the community. And so that's what happened with Apollo. We just didn't get any help, and it's no disrespect to John Bell or his administration. It just wasn't something on his priority list at the time. But we had to move forward, and we had to finish the road. And so I was glad that the council had the foresight to see that. And now we've gotten some good relationship. The current administration seems to be working with us a little bit more. And but that's going to happen. That's part of the game. But it's nurturing those relationships, ensuring that we're trying to have a bipartisan approach, and making sure that we just understand that it's not always going to bounce our way, but we got to keep knocking on the door and hoping that they open it for us.
I like that. So you've worked with partners like Fenstermaker across dozens of planning and engineering projects. From your perspective, what defines a successful long-term consulting relationship?
Communication. Communication is key. It's in, we got to be transparent. I think Fenstermaker and all of the wonderful engineers and staff that I've worked with have understood kind of how I approach things. I'm a fast-paced type of guy. I want things done. It's our community, and so when you have that sense of place that I do for Scott, and the fact that I was born and raised here, I just want what's best for our people. I want to be able to leave some type of impact that the futures will be able to enjoy. And so, we got to be able to communicate. And I understand that I'm not an engineer. I understand that it's two different types of professional settings. But we got to communicate what our priorities are. We got to make sure that we're taking a balanced approach in communicating those priorities, and just trying to do what's best for the people based on how we can fiscally afford it. And so, I've been super transparent with them, and Fenstermaker has been super transparent with me. It's led to a wonderful partnership. We've done some tremendous projects in this community, and there's a lot on the books that we're going to be able to continue to partner together to finish. And so I'm super excited about that. The fact that they're just open with me and in regards to what's feasible, how things can be attained in regards to projects has been beneficial to not only me as the leader of this administration, but also to our people.
My dad always told me our job at Fenstermaker is to make our clients look good.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all have done a good job.
I hope so. Whether it's a town hall, a transportation plan workshop, or the Boudin Festival, you're known for being accessible. How do you gather and integrate feedback from citizens formally and informally into the day-to-day and long-range visioning for Scott? And we've talked about some of this, but making sure that people are feeling heard, even when their concerns might not immediately translate into action.
Yeah, I mean, I always said I would have an open door policy, and I do. I want to be as accessible. I am very vocal on social media. I try to be as open as I can. And some people just, they're standoffish to elected officials. I think, some people have this mindset of who we are and what, but I've always felt like I represent the whole, not the part. I always felt like I've led that way as well. Some people may not agree, and some people will, but at the end of the day, we got to do what's best for all of us. We got to be as inclusive as humanly possible, and we got to just make sure that we're open to listening. And I think that's one of my key characteristics. I think as a leader is I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to open my ears up and not necessarily make decisions based on what I feel Jan wants to see. I think we got to listen to what the public input, and that's why we go back to these public meetings and opening the dialogue for all these people. And man, you're gonna get the public input on that. Why wouldn't you just make it an executive decision? It goes back to it's our community. It's not Jan's community. It's not the council's community. It's the people's community. And so we got to embrace that. And so being transparent and then making sure that I'm open for any dialogue, whether it's in a public or private setting, I think is imperative to being a leader in this community.
So you keep talking about it's not what Jan wants, but it's what the people want. Do you think that is a fundamental philosophy of how a leader should lead?
As an elected official, yes. I think it's imperative that we represent the people, and so their input is just as vital as mine. Even though I'm elected to serve in this capacity, I think it's just important that we listen to them and we hear them out. Again, it's not always going to come to fruition as they may have planned. However, if we're doing what the collective voice of our citizens are saying, then I think we're winning. And so we got to remain balanced, but you got to open those doors up so that people can at least voice their opinion, whether you agree or disagree with what they're saying. We got to look at it from a comprehensive approach and make sure that what we're doing is the right thing for the majority, not the minority.
So we made it to part 2 of our interview.
Awesome.
Moving into character, the weight and will of leadership. So you've been reelected 4 times, a clear reflection of the trust your community has placed in you. What do you think your constituents see in your leadership that keeps them coming back to the polls?
I would hope humility. I'm very confident. I think most people, feel that. Some people may be intimidated because I've always carried myself that way, whether it was on the soccer field, whether it's in the restaurant, whether it's in City Hall. I've always carried myself very well. I think that was, passed down to me from my father. But I feel like I'm transparent. I feel like I'm humble. It's never been about me. It's always been about us. And so as long as I continue to have that approach, I would assume that the people will continue to want me there. But I won't be here forever. I understand that. I just want to be here to leave a mark. And so as long as I continue to keep God first and keep my family first, I'll continue to lead in this way. But humility is so important in this role, and it's an honor to be born and raised in a community and them have that much trust in you to lead. I was 44 years old when I was elected. I mean, that's young. to be able to lead a community of this capacity. And so as long as I continue to remain honest with myself and honest with them, fully transparent, and take a humble approach, this community is going to continue to thrive. And I'm honored and humbled to lead in this capacity.
You're known for being calm, deliberate, and grounded. Where does that strength of character come from? Now, you mentioned your father. Were there moments or influences that helped shape your philosophy as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely give a lot of credit to my dad, to my parents, just in general. My mom was a school teacher. My dad was in the oil patch, and so we were a middle class family. Grew up on the outskirts of this community, and my grandparents were born and raised, right around the corner from here near the railroad tracks, and so it was just a humble beginning, and it's always been family first type scenario, and so my dad never met a stranger. I always was confused. We'd go to random places, and there was never someone he didn't know. And so some people probably wouldn't say I'm very grounded. I mean, if you would have seen me on a soccer field as a coach, I was pretty feisty, but I always fought for my team. It's very similar here. I fight for my people, and I fight for the people I represent. And so I'm going to continue to do things that are going to go against the grain. I'm going to continue to fight for the projects that I feel are vital to the growth of our community. And I'm going to continue to fight for a quality of life to ensure that we're creating a safe space and a sense of place that is the best it's ever seen. And so I saw this community transform, and I've seen it, continue to transform under my leadership. And it's just a remarkable sight to see where we came, where we were, where we've been, and where we're going. And so just like I said, honored and humbled to be in this capacity. But my parents were basically the sounding board for us as kids. Dad wasn't a man of many words, but he led by example. One of those, it's kind of like I used to tell my soccer teams, kind of like the lunch pail guys, that you always have those lunch pail guys, those guys that just bring their lunch pail to work, and they get there and they do their job. That was the case. My dad would get up early and go to work and come home. My mom was a school teacher. She'd get up and go to work. And that's just kind of how I am. I feel like I just got to get up and go to work and do what's best for our community. And so, but without their influence and without their steadiness, I probably wouldn't be here where I am today.
What do you think your grandfather would think about some of these developments in the community?
He would be so proud. It's in 2010 when I ran for mayor pro tem at the time. There was a section of our community that he grew up on, which is Rue Bon Secours in the northern portion of our community. And I was getting ready to walk out there, and he told me he was a young 90-year-old man at the time, and he said, "Don't worry about that road." He goes, "I'm going to take care of that road." And so I'll never forget that. He passed shortly after that. I think he was able to vote, and then he passed a few months after, unfortunately. But I think he would be extremely proud. My grandparent on my mother's side would be extremely proud as well. He was the former mayor of Dusson back in the day in the late 60s. And so I know he would be extremely proud of what I've done and how I've changed this community and the landscape of this community since my administration took over. So I think all of my grandparents would be extremely proud of what I've done, because I think I've led with integrity and humility, and I put in service over ego. Even though some people may not feel that way, I feel like I've led with a servant heart, and I will continue to do that.
The former mayor of Dusson.
Yep.
I love that.
Former mayor of Dusson.
I love it. So you've also been the face of high impact, high friction projects, reroutes, delays, and construction that's very visible and disruptive. How do you maintain perspective when progress comes with resistance?
Well, again, kind of goes back to what I said earlier. If you're not growing, you're dying. We have projects that come, and some of them are obviously under our jurisdiction. Some of them aren't. We're going to have one coming up in the very near future with the bridge work being done on Rue de Bellier by Acadiana High School. That's a DOTD project. There's going to be some lane closures and road closures that are going to come with that particular project. And then, of course, like the Apollo Road. But, it's only for a short time. and kind of, life's short, and people we live in a world where it's quick to complain, and we have platforms that allow people to really voice their opinion, and it's just the nature of the beast. It's just where we are in today's society. But I don't let too many things bother me. I'm pretty tough skin. I think we got to do what's best for our community, and so sometimes that comes with hiccups, sometimes that comes with delays, sometimes that comes with road closures, all those things. I mean, it's happened before. I'm not the first mayor to have an area of our community that's shut off because of a project, and so, but I know what the end goal is, and so the end goal is always what we have to be looking forward to, and so you're gonna have some delays and you're gonna have some hiccups along that way, but it's just a step in the road, in my opinion. Ain't no hill for a stepper. My dad used to always say, "It's no hill for a stepper," and so it's really not. It's just it's a small inconvenience. We just got to embrace it, but we got to look at the big picture, which is the end goal.
A bump in the road, not a bumpy road.
Not a bumpy road, exactly.
In a community like Scott, leadership is deeply personal, and you've touched on this. How does living among your constituents, their expectations, their history, their pride, shape how you lead?
They're just as a part of this community as I am. It's their city as well, and so you take it, and you have to live amongst them. We don't live in an island on our own, and that goes back to remaining transparent, remaining humble, being honored to serve in this capacity. And so I think, my approach has always been, I'm going to listen to your feedback. I want to listen to your feedback. I want to be able to go to the same places as you, but I'm still human. I'm a simple man. I'm no better than anyone else. Never presented myself that way. I'm going to continue to lead with transparency and humility, and service over ego. And I think as long as we do that, people will continue to allow me to serve in this capacity. So, we got great people. It's what makes our community so great. And so, the more I get this opportunity to lead in this fashion, the happier I am, and the more grateful I am to like I said, serve in this capacity. So it's a pretty cool deal.
So talk to me about where we are today, because we're at the Coffee Depot, and you kind of...
Well, I mean, probably about a good 40 years ago, I was in the same building. It was a feed and seed store. My uncle actually ran it. My grandparents lived just north of the tracks here. So this was just a walk to the feed store. We spent a lot of time running through here, just, being kids. So it's pretty cool. What Jeff and Sarah have done here has been remarkable. They've really transformed this place into a sense of place. It's a place where people gather and can drink coffee and share a beignet, and just share stories about everyday life, or what's happening now, or what happened in the past. And so you can see from the walls all the history and all the beautiful things that they kept to restore the building back to this particular place. And so it's cool. And Scott has done a great job with that in creating senses, a place where people can gather and just be family. And that's what this is. And I'm so grateful for Jeff and Sarah for giving us the opportunity to be able to have this podcast here, because it's truly a one-of-a-kind place, not just in Scott, but in the parish.
The Coffee Depot.
The Coffee Depot.
I love it.
I love it too.
I'm so glad we're here.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you have such good relationships in this community.
We're trying.
We open doors.
Absolutely, we open doors.
Your family has been a constant source of support throughout your time in office. How do they help you carry the emotional demands of leadership? And how do you protect space for yourself as a husband, a father, and a friend beyond City Hall?
Yeah, I try not to bring work home. My wife is one of the strongest women I know, and she's tough. I mean, she's Colombian, and then she can she wants to defend me at every cost, and but she understands the role of a first lady, and so she's been extremely balanced, extremely supportive, understanding of what the role takes, and some of the negative that comes with it, and the fact that I'm not going to be able to please everybody. But it's a challenge. I mean, it's tough. There's times where it's tough, but we're both strong-willed, and we know we're doing the right thing, and we lead together. And we have to continue to. My kids have been remarkable. I mean, when That's all they know is their dad is the mayor. So it's my son went to high school here to Acadiana, and his 4 years I was the mayor. So I mean that's a challenge. That was tough for him, I'm sure, because everybody knew who I was. I was a coach of the team at the high school. So he really didn't have many corners to turn where somebody didn't know who he was. But they're so grounded. They're so grateful, I think, for me to be in this position. They know how much I love this community. And so it's just being balanced and trying not to take some of that stuff home to work. But, it's just like anybody else. It's just like any other job or anything that you take on in life, whether personal or professional, that it's, there's times where you get knocked down. But I got to put on like I'm human. I break down as well, just like anybody else. But I know I'm the leader of this community. I know I'm the face, and so I got to continue to lead with humility and dignity and integrity, and ensure that what we're doing is representing the whole, not the part. And they have been such a good, just a good base. I mean, they're just so calm. They understand what I want personally and professionally, and they understand what this role comes with. And so I think understanding is so important, but they're so grounded, and it allows me to remain grounded as well.
You got a little emotional thinking about your kids growing up. Tremendous sense of pride.
Yeah, it's not many people get this chance, so I take it personally because, you have the trust of 10,000 people every day to do what's right. And so I don't take that role lightly. I don't think anyone would. And, like I said, I was born and raised here. It has a special place for me to say I went away for quite some time. I was gone for 12 years in college, and then I lived in Florida for some time. And so to be able to come back and for the people to still have that much faith and trust in me to lead is really, really cool.
What part of this role has surprised you the most? Not just politically, but personally.
People are interesting. It's like I said, I don't know if there's any particular thing. It's I've always kind of dealt with the public, so to speak. I mean, when you coach soccer teams, you're dealing with different egos as players, parents. There's always that balance you got to have between players and parents. I understood that as a restaurant owner. It's employees and it's customers, and then of course at City Hall, it's your staff and it's the people, and so you just got to be able to balance all of that. It's so we, like I said, we live in a world it's just different. It's unique, and people just they want to have a platform to be able to speak their voice, and so we got to try to create that for them. We got to allow them those opportunities, but I also understand that as the executive person to make decisions alongside the council, that we just have to take in the whole. And like I said, we represent the whole, not the part, and we got to try to do what's best to ensure that we're creating a quality of life that not only this generation can handle and be proud of, but future generations can handle and be proud of. But balancing people and understanding the different identities and the different personalities that they're going to have is important. And everyone just wants you to be able to at least listen to them. You might not be able to give them the exact answer that they want, but I think as long as you are giving them that ear to stand on and giving them an opportunity to at least say, look, I'm going to look into it and try to do what's best as quickly as possible to satisfy you. I think they understand, and they'll be more understanding in how we grow.
People sure are interesting. You got a mixed bag, too.
Got a mixed bag. And I mean, I've always been, an all-inclusive. I think we need to be as inclusive as we possibly can, understanding equity across the board and all demographics, all races. Everything has to be a balance. And so as long as we continue to approach government the same way, we'll grow smartly and we'll create a sense of place that, everyone can be super proud of.
I agree. What's one decision you made early in your tenure that, in hindsight, changed the trajectory of your administration or your sense of what leadership really means?
I think the public-private partnership was probably, one of the first, key decisions that I made. Was something, was thinking outside the box. It was doing something that most governments hadn't done. I think I'm the first one, like I said, in Lafayette Parish to create a public-private partnership, and it proved beneficial in a multifaceted way, as I mentioned earlier. Not just a mitigation of flooding in that particular area, but creating a sense of space and place for our community and amenities that are going to last in perpetuity. So that was a big one, so my approach has always been from that point forward is to try to think outside the box, to try to be as innovative as possible, to do things internally, to streamline processes, to ensure that we are allowing developers and businesses and business owners and the citizenry the opportunity to get things done in a more streamlined process. And then so we that approach is taken off since I've been in office. We've done some cool things with Fenstermaker, with City Works. Our guys were doing service requests and public works work orders via paper. They were literally driving through the drive-through as of up until 19 to get work orders to go out to a part of our community to fix a water leak or to put a pothole, and going to City Works where everything's tablet driven, and it's through an email, and they can take pictures, and they can put things in the cloud, they can follow up, they can contact the citizens. I mean, those things are innovative tools that I think are imperative in streamlining how we grow and making sure that we're as efficient as possible as a government.
Government doesn't have a reputation for being very efficient.
No, and there's always work to be done. Technology and AI and all that stuff. It's changing like almost monthly. It seems it's so fast. It's rapid growing, and so we got to adjust accordingly, and we got to be able to accommodate those changes as well. And so we got to put things in place internally within the administration to ensure that we're creating portals and spaces and places where all of these people can go and access to streamline their work, because they're just as busy as us. We're not the busiest people on the planet, so everyone's busy in this world, man. It's just it's like a rat race type of scenario, and so we got to create streamlined processes for them to be able to do work, not necessarily do it in person. And so we tried that approach, and we've done some cool things, like I said, at City Hall with the City Works, and we're working on trying to streamline even more things to make sure that we're accessible and as efficient as humanly possible.
Talk to me about the reverence that you think a politician should have for private business and industry.
I think it's imperative. I mean, small businesses is America. Small business is the backbone of America. So we have to have that communication. We gotta have that relationship. We gotta try to, sustain what we currently have. We gotta try to encourage them to grow and to expand. We gotta encourage them to be able to retain. So we gotta create that community, that government space, that entity, that governmental entity that provides everything for them to grow, to retain what they currently have, and to sustain for the long term. So it's just building that relationship. It's that communication, and ensuring that even though they're separate, they're not. Private entities and government, they're different because you got one public, one private, but they can be bridged, and they have to be bridged because you need one to have the other. If we don't have these private entities, we don't have anything. We can't go overlay a road if we don't have private businesses coming and people generating sales tax revenue in our community. We're driven by that. So that relationship is vital. It's important, and you got to have that connection at all costs.
All right, part 3, legacy, what remains. The 2023 master plan, we talked about, outlines aspirations around livability, open space, transportation, and neighborhood character. What do you hope this next chapter in Scott's growth will say about the kind of place that you're helping to shape?
I think connectivity. I think it's important that we bridge, all these gaps public parks are important. What we've done at the Veterans Memorial is truly remarkable. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but we've created a sense of space there in an area that our city was founded. And so, where we're sitting is pretty much where our city was founded. This is the downtown. We were founded along the railroad. And so I think if anything, it's creating that sense of connectivity. And, we're looking at expanding our park. And so getting from the park into the downtown, from the downtown maybe to the West Village, from West Village to the library, from the library to the high school. So creating a sense of connectivity that doesn't just require the vehicle. And I think what people want is that's a good quality of life, is to have different avenues of connectivity, but also a big improvement in parks. I think green spaces are just vital for a community, just a connection with nature and an opportunity for people to go and just fellowship and enjoy each other's company. And so the more spaces that we can create, even through recreational, even sports, I think is important. But you got to have some spaces where people can just come and gather and just feel like they are in just a cool city. And so anything that we can do between connectivity and creating good park places, making sure our infrastructure is sound, just trying to have that balanced approach to say, man, that's a cool place. I'd love to live. And then the people, our people, like I said earlier, are just phenomenal. And it's what allows me this ability to serve in this capacity is because we have good people and people that genuinely care about where they live. And so, anything that we can do to create a top-notch quality of life where people want to live, work, play, and raise a family, I think is beautiful. And I think this plan kind of puts that in place, and it allows us the opportunity to grow into it.
I was driving early one morning and on a fresh, brand new roadway, drove by the brand new library. They still had their nighttime lights on.
Beautiful.
You see the stained glass. And do you ever drive around and there's so much that's new, but it still feels homey?
Yes. And that's important to a majority of our people is I think a lot of them understand that, if you're not growing, you're dying. And but they want to maintain that small town charm. And so we've got to do that. And creating certain, safe spaces allows for that. Even the Apollo Road corridor, as big of a project as it is, there's still a small town charm to it because it's a boulevard. It's beautiful. It's aesthetically appealing. You got sidewalk connectivity. I mean, when you can get from your high school to your library, and then if you left the library and you want to come grab a coffee at the coffee depot, you'd have all those opportunities via sidewalk. That's pretty cool. And when you look at it in regards to the area, I mean, it's a big space. I mean, you talk about the high school. I mean, we're talking a good mile from here, maybe 2 miles from here. The ability to say, well, I'm just going to get on my bike and take a track to the high school or go to the library. And so that's what's so important to me. And I'm hoping that whenever my time is up here, that people can look back and say, man, he really created a sense of space that is really, really cool. It's a place where I'd want to live, work, and, like I said, raise a family.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned additional potential quality of life investments like 4-H facility, sports complex expansion, as you look toward future planning. So when your calendar is dominated by urgent priorities, how are you making room for these more visionary efforts?
Yeah, these are kind of like these pet projects.
Okay.
These are the ones you want to see happen. You want them to come to fruition. You're hoping you can get some funding sources for it. But I think they're vital. I think they're very vital to any community. The sewer plant, one thing, we know we need that. That's just from a sustainability standpoint. We got to be able to sustain currently who our customers are. But if we want to grow at all, we got to be able to, expand that capacity. And so, when you look at the parks, you look at the 4-H facility, all of those things are quality of life. It's touching industry sectors that not everybody's involved with. And what I mean by that is the 4-H it's a certain demographic. I mean, but it's a big industry. There's a lot of people that, they love the cattle, they love to show, they love to ride the horseback. So those types of facilities, I think, are vital for not just that particular industry, but for economic development. You expand a park and you add a rec center and you incorporate a BMX bike facility, you already have the location. We have a prime location off of I-10. We already have the hotels. We have easy accessibility. And then you're on the interstate, so you have some visibility. You partner all that together by creating this place where people can go and engage in those activities, and then they staying in your hotels and they eating at the Coffee Depot, and then they buying Boudin, and then they're going to Uncle T's, and then they're going to the Fizos and the Rochettos and the Cajuns, and all these places end up benefiting it. And I've always felt like once we capture them, and going back to that location, is taking advantage of that location, and that's why securing that property was so important to me. And I'm glad it was important to the council at the time, because otherwise, we'd have been a landlocked Scott Park. This allows us to expand our recreational footprint to create multiple amenities, even outside of that recreation component, where we have some green space and some opportunities for maybe some outdoor concerts. Maybe in a future, maybe we expand the Boudin Festival there. I don't really know. But my point is it's creating a sense of space that our people can enjoy in perpetuity. And we benefit from it because we're going to get some sales tax off of it. We're going to have people that are going to be staying at our hotels. And I always felt like once we get them in our community, they're coming back. And you can see that every weekend. Just go by the Boudin vendors and you can see every weekend we get them in. And these businesses are doing such a phenomenal job of getting people in our community, and they want to come back. This place is one of them. They have a lot of Scott contingency here on a regular basis, but there's people from all over the area, all over the Acadiana region, that are migrating to these types of places because we've created such a good sense of place. And so I think we got to remain balanced. I think those things are important. I think they can be big economic drivers for our community. And so if we're able to secure funding for them, they could be some big wins for our community moving forward.
I'll be inclined to agree.
Yeah.
You just want people to come get a taste.
Get a taste.
Okay, for someone listening far outside of Acadiana, what is one leadership lesson that you've learned that you believe applies anywhere, no matter the scale or the context?
Probably service over ego, and humility and responsibility. I understand this is a big role. I probably take it lighter than some would. And what I mean by that is it's a big undertaking. You're leading a constituency of 10,000 people on a daily basis, and you're trying to ensure that you're doing the right thing for the right reason. And so that comes with some balance. But I've always felt like I need to lead with a servant heart. And, when we do litter campaigns, I'm the first one to grab a vest and a picker and a bag myself and do it. And I continue to lead. I walk alongside the people I work with, not in front. And I think any leader that does that has success. That doesn't mean I'm going to win multiple elections. What it means is that while I'm here, what we're doing is the right thing, and it's leaving a mark on future legacy, on the future administrations. And so service over ego and humility and responsibility would be my two probably number one things I'd hang my hat on in regards to how I try to lead. Because like I said earlier, I know I won't be here forever, but I'll be here for a short time, and I got to make sure while I'm here that I'm doing what's right to leave a legacy for those behind me.
Make it count.
That's right.
Okay, final question.
Okay.
One that we ask every podcast guest. What fuels you in leadership, life, work, family, career? What fuels Mayor Jan Scott Richard?
The ability to leave a mark. Like I said, I don't take this role lightly. Not many people are afforded this opportunity in their lifetime. And I'm a proud Scott resident, born and raised here. And to have the opportunity to lead this community is a very humbling experience. And so what fuels me is the fact that I believe that some of the things I'm doing and I have done will forever be ingrained in the minds that people live here. And that's special, you know. You always want to just leave a mark, and I feel like I am. I feel like I'm leading with a servant heart, and I feel like we assembled a team, a remarkable team of leaders in this community that truly love what they do and representing the people that we represent. And so I would hope that some of the things I do, whether it's very small to some, maybe very large to others, that they would be proud of how I've led and the way I've led. And so I'll continue to do that as long as they want me. And but yeah, you always want to leave some type of legacy, some type of mark in all that you do. And and I'm driven by my faith. Very devout Catholic. I fully believe God puts people in certain places, and I think He put me in this place for a reason. And so I'm gonna continue to lean on Him to lead with conviction and integrity and humility, and hope that leaves that legacy that I hope to.
Well, I think you're a beautiful leader.
Thank you.
A beautiful path. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.